What's up, y'all? It's Sarah Kate here with Billy Scott. We are back for our second episode of our podcast. I'm excited. Well, it's 2025.
Yeah.
New year, first podcast of 2025 of like being here.
Yep.
Our podcast kind of blew up a little bit. Our picture of the studio and everything. Like people were like, "What?"
Kind of they want to ask more questions, and that's intriguing. It keeps us wanting to be able to do more and see if we can provide some value.
Yeah. How did that make you feel to see people like excited about it?
I think it's pretty cool. It's exciting to know that so many people are watching our journey and cheering for us and wanting more, and they like the transparency.
Mm-hmm.
I think transparency goes a long ways because anybody can be, whoever they want to act as if on Facebook. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So but it's like we try to be vulnerable and just show who we are and the good, the bad, and the ugly sometimes.
Yeah. Today's going to be a little different than probably what a lot of our podcast episodes in the future are going to be. I'm honored today because I get to chat with you about your story, and we get to show the real and raw side of Billy and like how Billy grew up, how you've developed, like how you are who you are today. And yeah, Billy's giving me permission to ask all kinds of questions. So
I might regret this, but
no, it's going to be good. I'm excited. Let's jump into it. Tell me about little Billy. What was little Billy like as a kid running around? I'm sure you were chaotic and crazy.
Why do you seem to think I was chaotic?
I bet you were so quiet and well behaved. I bet you were just an angel, honestly.
I think we got a lot of thumbs down right now.
Your mom's like, he was not.
Yeah, exactly. Billy as a kid, I would say I've always been energetic, ball of fire, class clown, you might say. Always willing to say the stupid, dumb stuff just to get a good laugh because I live and breathe for humor. It's how I cope with life.
Just laugh at it.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I'm very lucky in a sense. I get out of bed with a smile, and for the most part, I can usually have a pretty good positive attitude and just happy-go-lucky. Not everybody gets to do that, so I got to remind myself that I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. So when you were younger, I want to know, because you have an enormous drive. You don't need to be motivated. You're very disciplined. You motivate yourself. You get up early. You start your day early. You will work insane hours. I mean, where did this drive start for you?
Man. What comes to mind is when I was younger, mowing lawns. When I say mowing lawns, I was probably 9 or 10 years old, and I wanted more money to go buy baseball cards and to add to my sports card collection, at the small card shop in Philomath.
Yeah.
And all my buddies would go there and hang out, and they'd have money to buy cards. And it was just one of those, my parents would give me a few bucks here and there and buy some cards here and there and that kind of thing. But if I wanted more, no matter what they gave you, you want more, right?
Yeah.
That's human nature. But I wanted to spend more money on cards. I didn't want to just buy a pack of cards. I wanted to buy a box or a case of cards. Man, what are the odds of getting a better, super card or something like that? So I was motivated to go make more money. And I was never afraid to mow the lawn. And my parents pretty much said, you want to go make money, pull around that lawnmower and go start, knocking on doors of people's homes that might need their lawn mowed and see if you can offer to pick weeds or run a weed eater. And
how old are you?
9, 10 years old.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
And I'd pull it behind my bike and sometimes I just
Yeah.
push it down the street, like on the
Yeah.
closest blocks, and put a bungee cord in a gas can, and
Yeah.
I got all I need with a mower and a gas can. Let's go
Yeah.
make some money. And not that I'm that old, but I feel like $1 or $2 would fill that gas can back up, but
Yeah.
not these days.
No, no.
But no, I would love it. I was never afraid to go knock on somebody's door and be like, hey, how's your day going? Looks like you need your lawn mowed. I'd love to be able to earn some money and earn some cash. Like, do you mind if I mow your lawn and you pay me what you think I'm worth? And most of the time, people will just do it because they see a young kid willing to go earn a living.
Yeah.
Instead of sometimes it was like, I could do it myself. But like, if I got this kid here trying to hustle, like, sometimes they throw you $10, $15, $20, and you're just tickled pink. And you race off and you go to the cart shop and you go buy some candy bars and a 44-ounce Mountain Dew and hang out at the cart shop.
You're living high rolling, man.
Exactly. But I think that transitioned into something that I did for multiple years of pulling my bike and a weed eater and a gas can and a lawnmower because I loved being able to go make money, and I don't like being told, well, I don't have money for that.
Yeah.
Well, then go make more money.
Yeah.
Like, that was just kind of like, I don't like being broke. So I wanted to find a way to not be.
Yeah.
You don't get rich mowing lawns, but you can at least have some cash in your pocket, be able to do stuff with it.
Yeah.
So
that's 19 years old. As you grew up, how did that play into effect? Like, you started young of just kind of hustling and wanting to have money to go buy candy bars and Mountain Dew.
Right.
Obviously, though, I feel like as you grow up, you're like, there's more to obtain and more money to make.
Yep.
So where did you see that kind of play into effect?
Shamelessly, I guess. I think of, my mom always liked a good garage sale. I've always been down for a good Saturday garage sale. You go find some deals, and not only just to buy something, but I would look at stuff and go, man, that's $3. I can sell that for $7. Like I can make $3 into $6 or $7. Like,
did your mom teach you that, or like where did that come from?
I don't know that it was really taught. It was just kind of that knack of like, if I could spend $1 and make $1, like, let's do this. And sometimes people just look at me like, isn't that a waste of time? Like, $1's a buck. Like, people quote the $20 is $20. But it's like, I always had fun with that. And it was like, it's cash. But unfortunately, I mean, if you want some raw truth, I remember I was around 14 years old. I was in 8th grade. And I bought $20 worth of weed. And the next day it's like, oh my gosh, like I want to go do that again. Yeah. Well, here's the reality of it. You don't have $20 to spend a day to go smoke weed at 14, and you're not supposed to be doing it. But that was beside the point. Right. And I remember asking like, well, what if I bought $40 worth? And then you can get more. And then, well, what if I bought $80 worth and you can get more? And you get more volume savings. And then it's like, well, gosh, if I buy a half ounce for $140, I can get $200 worth of weed. And it's like, well, what's an ounce cost? And it's like, it just went, well, the more you spend, the more of a discount you get. And instantly, I knew I couldn't afford to smoke weed. So I instantly started selling pot. Like I'm not proud of it. Yeah. I just looked at it as, if I can't afford to do it, this is how I'm going to be able to. How can I go smoke pot with my buddies when I don't got money? Yeah. So that's what I did. It's not a great thing, but
we're not condoning drugs, everybody, but
it's just, I mean, that's the reality of how I looked at, if I spend this, how do I make that?
Right. It's a mindset thing, right? Of like, this is what my goal is. Here's how I'm going to achieve it. Right. It totally makes sense. Like, right. Pot aside.
Yeah, exactly. I wish it was something more proud to talk about, but it was just dollars and cents for me. It's like, well, I don't like being told no, so how am I going to be able to do it? Yeah. And then you buy an ounce, and then Next thing you know, you're buying 2 ounces. Next thing you know, you're buying a quarter pound. You're like, well, I could buy a quarter pound for $900. And,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
$1,200 or, whatever, where
Yeah.
it just, one thing trickled to the next. And it just was like, yeah. So it spiraled from there.
Mm-hmm. So after that, what was going on in your life? Like middle school, that was like 14, so right before high school. How was high school for you? Because you went to Philomath High, right?
Yep.
How was that?
Graduated class of 02.
I was a year old. It's fine.
I had a blast in high school. Those are good old days. Like, I wish kids these days understand when they don't want to be at school or they want to go start working early. Like, work will always be there. Like, those are some of the glory days, truly. And I know I got in a lot of trouble. Like I said, being the class clown, I don't think I ever grew out of that. It's one of those where I always had a lot of buddies. I had a lot of friends, hung out with a lot of different groups. Small town. I just was a social butterfly. Like, I love people. And if one group didn't work for me, on to the next one, on to the next one. I love being around people. So I didn't realize to the extent of how much I love people until I got older. But yeah, so I played baseball through high school. That was the only sport I played. My coach Stevenson, he always pushed me, and he's one of the people I always think about of like, who helped shape you, who was a mentor, who was like a big influence in my life. And even though coach was always tough, like, you knew when he looked at you and he changed his voice, it sends chills down your back because it's like, I'm about to get my ass whooped. And my parents always gave him full permission. You do whatever you need to do to keep him in line.
Yeah.
And he knew it. I mean, I could be in the outfield. He'd just say, Billy. And it's like, oh, God. Like, what did he find out about?
Yeah. You're like, what now?
Oh, yeah. I remember, oh, my gosh. I remember one time, it was, I think, my sophomore year. I got in a fight right before first day of baseball practice, and early spring practice is usually done in the gym because the fields are too wet. And I got out of school, got in a confrontation with a kid. Let's say I won that one. And I went to coach at practice, and I'm like, Coach, I gotta talk to you. Like, he's like, what do you need? Like, you need to be getting ready for practice. Like, I'm like, I just got in a fight. And he's like, here we go again. Like, all right, like, anything happen? Are you in trouble? Like, and I'm like, I don't know. It's probably gonna come out tomorrow. It just happened right before practice in the hallway. I just wanted to come and tell you. And he's just like, what am I going to do with you? I'm thinking, he said that a lot to himself, I think. But in the end, like, it all worked out. But it's one of those I think about. And I knew, as much as I hated the discipline that certain people had in my life, as I get older and as I come out of that teenage phase, you realize how much of an impact they had in my life. Of like, they saw the good in you. Yeah. They knew you weren't seeing the good in yourself. And they pushed you because they knew you could do better than what you were doing. And you wanted to keep farting around and be a class clown and get in trouble for talking or not doing your homework and letting your grades drop or getting in a fight. And it's like, Billy, when are you going to figure this out? Like, figure it out. And I'm still figuring it out, but I think we've came a long ways at the same time. And it's, I don't know, I just think of, I don't ever want people to stop being hard or seeing potential in somebody because they might offend them when they know that's because they see the good in them. Yeah. When sometimes they don't see it in themselves. Yeah. So yeah. Now, as I'm older, I always appreciate it. And it's always one of those people that my senior year, I wrote a paper on Mr. Stevenson because I respect the heck out of him and how he was to me and how he pushed me. So thanks, coach.
Yeah. So high school, you were just rowdy and got into trouble, but also like people loved you and
I
you
wasn't
learned a
rowdy.
lot.
I just had a good time.
Yeah. So after high school, I mean, what happened after that?
High school. So I graduated. I was 18 years old, June of '02, and I knew I did not want to go to college in a sense of like I struggled in school, and I knew I needed to figure out something to go make a good living. And actually, Matt Dixon and I, we agreed we were going to go down to Universal Technical Institute or urinary tract infection, whatever you want to
Oh
call it.
my.
And we went down to Phoenix, Arizona. Matt ended up not being able to go. It didn't work out, but another guy, Mark, and I went down to that same school. He went for heavy diesel mechanic, and I went for HVAC, for heating, ventilation, air conditioning, refrigeration. And why I was wanting to go to a trade school was it's more hands-on learning. Like you go down there and you learn the trade instead of you're not just sitting here doing book study all the time and going to college classes. It was narrowing in on this career path. It was great. Taught me a lot. It was a year down in Phoenix, Arizona, my first year on my own. I went down there in August, 2 months after graduating. Talk about freedom when you're 18, 19 years old and you are 3 states away from your family. And wow, that was a wild year. It came with a lot of struggles.
You learn the responsibility of freedom.
Yeah. And I found everything I wanted, and that's a fact in life. Like, if you want to go find trouble, you'll go find it. If you want to go find good people, you'll go find it. Like, you become a product of what you're trying to be around or surround yourself with. So it's up to you. Like, the old saying, like, show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly believe in that, like, because we become a product of our environment. And I went down to Arizona and wanted to go run amok and do the drinking scene and the party scene. And I found it. I found it all right. And I found myself getting arrested 4 times that year, spending a night in Tent City. It was just, getting a DUI over 100 miles an hour. It was just like, what am I doing? And I think when I look back on that, a lot of people have heard my story about 4 times in 1 year. Like, Billy, like you were just like the rough and tough. And, all the stories I hear about my dad, like I hear, like, oh my God, you're just a little Randy Scott, like just little Hellraiser and just 100 miles an hour, go, go, go. And it's like, I needed to find a way to take that 100-mile-an-hour mindset and apply it for something good. Because I was going to end up in jail or dead and just being a piece of garbage to society. And that's not who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
It was a fun year, but man, it came with some hard knocks. Like,
came at a cost.
It did. And
so what changed for you?
2 weeks after being down there, I did get a phone call from my daughter's mom and said, I'm pregnant with your baby. And that was just like, oh my God, I can't take care of myself, let alone another human being. And I think that I made excuses. I hung up that phone. I called my mom, and this is something, man, I called my mom and I says, Mom, and it was just that, Mom. And she literally said, who'd you get pregnant? I thought, there's no way.
Oh my
There's no
gosh.
way. Like
Yeah.
this girl doesn't know my mom.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to bring her home to my mom.
Yeah.
Like, my mom knew,
Mm-hmm.
and she just gave me a lecture that I needed to hear. She just said, it takes two to tango. Like, you better figure it out how to man up.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, well, I guess that's what I need to do.
Yeah.
And I called her back and said, man, if we're going to do this, we're going to bring a baby into this world. Like, we got to figure out
Mm-hmm.
how we're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm down here to go to college, to get a degree, to better my life. Like, just running back home wasn't an option.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I need to be able to fend for a family. And she had another daughter already. So that was a year and a half old. And it was like, if we're going to do this, we need to give this a Boy Scout effort. Yeah. But it was after that next year is when I got arrested 4 times. And it's like, Billy, you got a baby on the way.
Mm-hmm.
You're using the excuse that you're down here going to school, but really you're down here going to school, but really your focus is party scene.
Mm-hmm.
School just happens to be what got you down here.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't sit here and look at anybody in the eye and say that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing when you have a young child on the way. I don't care if you're 19, you're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Or are you going to be that piece of crap dad that doesn't fend for his kid?
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't an option. It's like, oh my God. And then I just kept chasing the party. Like,
yeah. But you were still going to school.
Yep.
So did you end up finishing school and then come back home?
Yeah. So August 8th, 2003, I finished my school. So I got my 2-year associate's degree. So I fast-paced it, got it done. My daughter and her mom came down for my graduation ceremony there. And my daughter was 3 months old at that point. And it was just, it was like, I remember the first time I held her, I had my shirt off. My daughter gave me a big old hug, and then she puked down my back.
That was the beginning.
Like,
welcome to fatherhood.
All right, you said what you wanted to say. Now can we work on this from here, sweetie? Like, yeah, and it was just like, yep, warm milk going down the back.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Welcome.
Yeah, but my daughter, I wouldn't change it for the world. I know raising kids at a young age is hard because you're not mature enough, typically speaking. Like, financially, you're not in a career job. Like, you can barely afford to live as it is, and then to go live the party life and be a father and raise kids. Like, it's just financially a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
For anybody. And that was something that I tried to preach to my kids about. Like, if you're going to have kids at a young age, like, you got to be more, set up with your career and like more prepared. It's like, try to wait and plan better, because I struggled, and I'm not saying I did it right. Like, and with each kid, you learn more and more, and you adjust how you parent. And, like with my 21-year-old Taylor, like, love her to death. She was my firstborn. But at 19, she came to me saying, Dad, I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
And it was like, you're going to be a wonderful mother. Like, you've got a heart of gold for kids and animals. But it's like, kiddo, like, it will be a financial struggle. Like, it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy.
Was that hard for you to see, especially because you went through that before, like with her?
It was hard to accept, especially because I spent a lot of time stressing to not go bring kids into the world unprepared like I did. But she's got this stubbornness that she gets from her mom.
Oh, sure. I don't know where she gets that from.
And I love her.
Learning things her own way.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly. And I get it. Like,
yeah.
And I didn't want to do as I say, not as I do. But it was just like, man, it's not gonna be an easy road. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just telling you that.
Yeah.
And it's not, but I love the fact, I love the mother that Taylor is today,
Mhm.
you know, with my 1.5-year-old grandson, and he's just a little ball of joy, little Sawyer.
The cutest. He's so cute. His little face, big smile, those eyes. I'm like, oh my gosh. He's
Yep.
gonna be a little ladies' man for sure.
He's trouble. He's trouble.
He's very cute.
But no, I mean, you know, Taylor's trying to pave her own path and, you know, doesn't want the easy route, you know, and I commend her for that. And
Mhm.
she's got to go work for it. And it's what makes you who you are. Like
Yeah.
taking the free ride, everybody handles it differently. And,
Right. Yeah.
you know, I think I'm more of a stern parent in a sense of like, no, it's not. Like, you got to go put in the work. Like,
Mhm.
you gotta do you. This is just part of having kids at a young age. It's not easy.
Yeah.
We'll try to help the best we can, and we're proud grandparents. And she's got tons of support around her from my parents to her mom and stepdad and all them. Like, she's got a lot of friends that everybody, you know, it takes a village. You know,
It does.
it takes an army.
No matter how old you are.
Yeah.
You gotta have support with that.
Yep.
So after you got your associate's degree, you came home, you had a little baby.
Yep.
What happened from once you got home? I mean, what was like, I mean, you had a child to provide for.
Yeah.
Right? So what was your game plan?
Yeah, technically two. Her older sister, Rye, and her mom and I, we tried to make it work. We gave it a run until about the end of June the following year, and it just, you know, we weren't compatible, and it was time to part ways. We gave it a whirl for the kiddos,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't a long-term plan.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't work out. We gave it a shot, and people part ways. But it's not what happens; it's how we handle it. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy on the kids. It wasn't easy on us. But it was. Everybody knew it was for the better. Like, sometimes it's just not meant to be.
Yeah.
So when I came back, I instantly reached out to my buddy Joel. His parents own Chenard's Nursery, and they said, yeah, we're looking for laborers. Like, we can put you right to work, and we know it's not the long-term job that you have. Because I found out when I came back, I was going to go work for a local heating outfit.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, you got a job waiting for you, and you just got to go there and don't get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I missed that last part. So, and
you're like, you mean don't get caught? Okay.
Yeah. So literally they said, I'm going to give you an example. If you come drive a service van for us, it's going to cost us, say, $3,000 a year. But I've got 10 drivers. And if I have no drivers that have a DUI, it costs me $1,000.
Okay.
You're going to triple my insurance. You're brand new.
Yeah.
How are you going to triple what you make to justify us paying this?
Mm-hmm.
And they pretty much said, you can be a laborer for the next 3 years till your DUI's off your record and just be a grunt and learn everything about the trade. And if you want to do it, like, you won't make as much money, but what you're going to learn to be able to prepare yourself to go be a service tech, it's totally up to you what you do with it. And it was like, selfishly, I just said, I need to go start making money. Like, I have, 4 mouths to feed, with 2 kids. And it was just like, maybe long term that would have been a great option, but I've got to go find where I can make money now. So I never worked a day in the career path on the associate's degree that I did. And literally the old saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. I literally pay HVAC technicians to come service my air conditioning unit, because now it's like, I'm not even, I can't even do it on my own anymore because I didn't use it. So
for sure.
But it's not a waste. It's just one of those, everybody looks at it differently.
Yeah. You came back around to the housing, market in just a different way.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Exactly.
It all works out the way it's supposed to.
But yeah, so I went to work for Chenard, started, building like retaining walls and helping install ponds, dig outs and doing pond features, water features, and things like that. That was awesome. Or
Mhm.
laying sod and installing irrigation systems. Like, it was cool. Like,
Mhm.
it was a new job every week, depending on how long the job took.
Yeah.
And it was hard physical labor, and you got to work with some of your buddies, like, but it wasn't something where I knew this is what I was going to do long term.
Yeah.
And I think it was around December 22nd or 23rd, uh, came up on end of the year, and we had to take a couple weeks off, and it was like, hey, we're a little slow. We're going to lay off for a week or two, and then we'll get back to work after the new year. And it was
Mhm.
like, if I ain't working today, I'm working somewhere else tomorrow.
Yeah.
I need to be making money. I'm an adult that needs to be feeding my kids, and
Mhm.
this is I can't
Yeah.
do the whole unemployment thing.
Yeah.
So if I'm not working here, I need to go figure out where I'm gonna.
Yeah.
And later that afternoon, ran into a buddy of mine. He says, "Hey, a guy just quit today. Do you want a job?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, I literally,
Yeah.
yes, and interviewed for it, and they said, "All right, you start tomorrow." And the first day on the job, I called in, and I blew my eardrum that night, and I called in the first day on the job. I think it was Christmas Eve at Vanell Farms, and the guy asked my buddy, like, "Is this guy just a fluke? Like, is he even gonna work out, or is this
Yeah.
just the beginning of, like, should we just get rid of him now?"
Let's just cut
Yeah.
this off. Yeah.
Yeah. It's terrible, but no, they gave me an opportunity. I worked at Vanell Farms the next year and a half. I was working 60 plus hours a week,
Mhm.
and you make about 8.50 an hour. And
That's so good.
but you get 20 hours a week of overtime,
Yeah.
and it was like, man, I'm getting rich.
Yeah.
I think I made about 30 grand, a
Mhm.
year there. And I thought, man, I'm making it. Like,
Yep.
you look back on it now, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, a family of four and you make 30 grand, like, that's not,
Yeah.
it's not getting you, you're not getting ahead.
Yeah.
You're getting by, but you're not getting
Yeah.
ahead. And the thing is, the whole time I'm in the drinking scene. So, like, my money is going towards alcohol
Mhm.
and using. It's
Mhm.
not going towards everywhere it's supposed to be going,
Right.
So that was just the reality of, you really didn't make that much money, and then you were blowing the money you were making.
Mhm.
So, like, how do you expect to ever get ahead in life?
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
why do you think you're driving $1,000 vehicle?
Right.
Why do you, like,
Mhm.
Billy? Come on, like,
You had to think bigger.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. When I was at Vanell's, man, it was a physically labor intensive job. Like, you're bucking hay bales and you're
Yeah.
throwing feed bags. I remember one Saturday, between four of us, we moved by hand like 45 ton of feed
Oh my
on a Saturday 10-hour shift. And I mean, we were just getting after
Yeah.
it, but it's like, between feed and loading trailers with hay, Saturdays were just go, 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 go. Like, you don't have time to stop. And before you know it, your shift's over.
Yeah.
And you go out and you drink some more, and you go party. And it was one of those, like, I think of how much of a young person's job that was, because it's so physically, intense. You can't do that long term.
Mm.
And that's one thing I realized, was there's not a lot of people retiring doing that job.
Yeah.
They're young, they do it for a few years, and they move on because they realize this is to get by. This is not to get ahead.
Yeah.
But one of the great things that happened there was, uh, this gal came in who was dating the front office guy, and she come in for feed with her dad, and she brought brownies, um, and she fed them to all the guys in the barn and everything else. And her name happens to be Ashley, who jumped forward, who I married. But this is where I met her. She grew up out of Junction City, and she was dating Matt there, and they'd been high school sweethearts for 3 or 4 years. And I remember I ran back into the office, and I told my boss and Matt and her, they were all sitting there, and I says, "Hey, you better lock this one up, because if she keeps bringing in brownies, I'm gonna start making a move on her." And we all just laughed. And he says, "Go for it," And he just kind of jokingly.
Yeah.
Well, in the next couple weeks, she ended up. They parted ways, and So every time she'd come into the feed store, I'd always be flirting with her and chatting with her dad. And one thing led to another, and we started hanging out. And you know what reeled her in? I took her to the frolic. I took her to the frolic, and the
Oh,
rest was history. But I'm not saying it was a smooth ride. It
right.
was, a lot of ups and downs early on because of my drinking and my partying.
Yeah.
She's 3 years younger than me, but it's crazy how, where you meet people and the relationships you build and where it takes you.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you for being such a patient wife.
Yeah. A little bit of angel for your devil.
Yeah, exactly.
So you worked at Vanel's, you met Ash, you realized like long term, this is not where I want to work for the rest of my life.
Yep.
This isn't going to get me to where I want to go. Because tying back to like your development, you're a hustler. You don't want to be broke. You want to provide. You want to be able to have the things you want.
Right.
So after, being at Vanel's, it's like, where did you end up moving to?
Yeah. Good question. It was spring of 05. And I went to my boss, Brent, and I said, Brent, like, I'm making $8.50 an hour. Like, I got to make more money. Like, this is, I work 6 days a week, 60 plus hours. Like, I gotta do something. Like, is there any way I could get an extra 50 cents? And at the time I'm thinking like, man, like 50 cents, it's going to really make a difference.
Yeah.
You look back on it now and it's like, you barely feel that in your paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
You're really only getting 33 out of the 50 cents after taxes. Like, so it's just like, is 50 cents really making or breaking you? Or do you got to self-analyze and realize, quit wasting your money on dumb shit? How about that? But that, we don't look at it that way when we're that age. But no, and he goes, if you want more money, you better go elsewhere to get it. And it was like, oh,
okay.
Challenge.
Yeah.
And reached out to my old brother-in-law, Brando, and said, hey, you've talked about, Knife River, you worked there, or, it was the old Morse brothers at that time, and you worked there a lot of years. And he's like, I need to know that you're not going to just run through this job and it's just going to be a stepping stone. Like, if I go to put my name on your resume, you better be committed. And that means you're showing up on time. That means you're working 6-7 days a week. Like, you are devoted to this job. And I can't vouch for you if you're going to be one that calls in or you're going to be late and this and that. And, it was just one of those like, nope, I'm ready. Like, I'm at a point, like, I'm ready. And why I'm going to jump back. Why I was ready was because 6 months prior, early on in my relationship with Ash, I went to meet her and her girlfriends at the Pendleton Roundup in September of 04. And long story short, got in trouble. Got pulled over on the side of I-84 outside of Arlington. And I got arrested for cocaine. And that was a time where I knew I wasn't being responsible. And I knew, like, this is all coming to an end. Like, you keep getting away with it. You keep living the party life. You now have a year-old daughter, like a 16-month-old daughter. And guess what? Sitting in the back of that cop car on I-84, because I had a pin cartridge with coke residue, and thinking to myself, you're a piece of crap. You're not being the father you say you are, and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And it's like, I just think, I wanted to make accusations and say, like, but Taylor's mom does this and Taylor's mom does that. Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Who's sitting on the side of the highway in cuffs because they're living the party life, not being a parent?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you take that one in for a second?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I felt the absolute smallest I've ever felt. And I just thought, I got to do something different. Like, I've got this new girlfriend named Ashley. This is like, how am I going to hold this together, not lose my child? Like, my world's crashing in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, it's nobody's fault but my own.
Mm-hmm.
And that
was that kind of like a rock bottom for you?
A rock bottom in a sense of using, but I wouldn't say it's a rock bottom to my drinking.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up having to go to court, was on probation for 3 years for that, paid a bunch of fines, had to do a bunch of community service. But that was a shifting point of like, I'm tired of being this person.
Mm-hmm.
And when they made me go to a NA meeting, they interviewed me at the meeting, and by the end of it, they pulled me aside and they're like, you don't need NA. You're an alcoholic and you need to be an AA.
Mm.
Because I never wanted to go do coke sober.
Mm.
Like, it was like, I start drinking, you have some beers, you take some shots. Next thing you know, you're like, hey, let's do some blow.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep this party going for 24 to 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like you get off work and it's like, oh, I'm going to do some blow. No, it was a party scene. So it wasn't like I was ever addicted. But I didn't realize how much I was an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember early on in dating my wife, she says, hey, what do you think about maybe just having like 6 beers a night? You're funny. Like,
go bigger, go bigger. That's Billy's motto.
And I think about that and I laugh, but really, like, was she really asking for that much?
Mm.
But I knew, like, no, I'm going to hold that closest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll quit the other stuff, but I'm not quitting this.
Well, I'm going to stop you right there. We're going to split this into 2 parts because I want to be able for people to really get into your story. And but I'm very excited. Thank you for just sharing your journey with us so that we get to know you and people understand who is Billy Scott. And honestly, like, why is Billy so awesome? Like,
stop making me blush.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to get into more.
No, I appreciate it. And thanks for asking some of the right questions. It gets the deeper side, and kind of pulls not just surface level conversation. But it's what people want. They want to know, like, what's the truth. Yeah. And that's what we want to try to provide them. So
you're welcome.
Love it.